This is the Dealing Seconds podcast with your Cards and Beards crew. I'm Chris.
And I'm Danny.
Danny, we have a special guest today. I think most people know him in this community. What do you think?
No, I think nobody knows who this guy is.
Not one bit. Not one bit. No, he's not famous. He's not special. You know, he doesn't have a card company that is like one of the best in the world, best delivery services ever, you know, the green bubble wrap and all. Nobody knows him. Nobody cares. You know.
And who would that be? That would be the one and only Mr. Henry from SoCalPlayingCards.com.
Yeah.
Welcome, Henry.
I got my
roaring applause.
Roaring applause. How's it going, Henry?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, how you been, Henry, first and foremost? How's everything been with you?
Been good. Just busy. We recently had a site update where not only do we have everything that we have on hand here inventory-wise, but we were able to tap into Murphy's Magic entire inventory, at least from, playing cards are concerned. So it was a massive update, kind of a blessing in disguise, because we actually hired another designer to work on a website. And they just kind of went dark on us for a while. So instead of being in limbo for a bit, we poked around Murphy's Magic and saw the downloads that they had, and we were able to figure out a way that we could update the site in the same fashion we were going to have the new website. So the big benefit is we don't have to change the auction web address. We don't have to learn any new systems or programs. It's what we've already been working with anyway, but now we have a little bit more to offer. So that's been keeping us really, really busy over the past few weeks. And then on top of that, my work has been sending me to different locations. I was in San Diego a couple weeks ago, was in Tucson last week. So it's just busy all the time, really.
I can imagine all that time being just
so
nonstop on the road.
Yeah, so how does that work? So are you tapped straight into Murphy's Magic, like directly to their inventory?
No, I wish it was that simple. If anything, it's more of a CSV download constantly, just to make sure that all the inventories are correct, because the last thing we'd want is for somebody to buy something and find out, well, Murphy doesn't have it anymore. Yeah. So the initial setup, well, let me backtrack. Just the updating is relatively easy. It was the initial setup that was a nightmare, because there's no way to easily separate out from the beginning, what's playing cards, what's a DVD, what's a magic book, what's, squishy balls or cups or whatever. So you literally have to download everything and then delete what you don't want, and then you could just keep updating, whatever's left over. So the initial setup, after a couple of mistakes, because what I did was I loaded everything, and then you got to go through and delete what you don't want. And what I did was accidentally uploaded the entire file again. So, but the whole thing, so
Jeez.
It ended up being where I downloaded, Murphy's has, I think right now they have 1,400 decks of cards. But cards, I think if you only collect playing cards, you don't realize Murphy's Magic probably has 10 times the amount of product dedicated solely towards Magic. So It took 18 hours for the upload to complete.
Really, I figured Murphy's would have more decks than just 1,000. That seems really low to me.
Just on hand now. I mean, if you look through, however they've been in business, I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff that's been sold out. But as far as on hand with Magic compared to decks, it's probably 10 times more Magic stuff than just playing cards alone.
See, I bet you people don't even know that, because I didn't even realize that, but it makes sense.
No.
I had no idea until I started doing the import and thinking, I'll just grab a beer when I come back. And 18 hours later, I got the notification, it's done. I'm like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. What a nightmare. And then you had to undo all of that. And then, so now we have it where it's a simple, download the spreadsheet, get rid of all that stuff and upload. But the original setup, in order to do that, was a tremendous headache, to put it lightly.
I could only imagine. I mean, I do that even with my business. I work in the wine business, so a lot of times I actually, like, you have to download a CSV file with all the information and then adjust it and then re-upload it. But then again, if there's stuff that I forgot to delete or take out or, adjust, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I just uploaded double amount and now I have to go back and manually delete everything from the site. I'm like, oh my God, that just hurts. All the time wasted. I'm just like, oh. But seriously, when you posted that thing on your website, we will be back, I was literally shitting in my pants. Like, no! I was like,
we got a few messages like, what's going on? What's happening? I know some people knew that we were going to look at changing websites, but because, again, the developer kind of went dark on us for a little bit, the whole Friday I took off, the most recent Friday I had off. And I basically spent that entirety just going through all of the playing cards and changing the vendor because for some reason, the vendor on the Murphy's Magic spreadsheet is just Murphy's Magic. So it's literally 1,400 entries that all say Murphy's Magic. So you got to go in there each and every one. Well, this is Art of Play. This one's Luke Wadey Design. This one's Dan Dave. This one's, this one's blah, 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 blah. And there's a lot of companies that only put like 1 or 2 decks. So you got to go through those. And I'm not just going to say, well, screw it, because, my OCD, I have to have the right name for whoever put out that deck.
Yeah, you better have my name on the freshman year so they know they still
I
have.
did.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. We did that. It's Danny Carey.
Oh, no, right?
Yeah. Sophomores were mailed to Murphy's today. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then so it's just going through it, manually line by line by line. Luckily, if you collect enough and you have store, you kind of know who's what. But then there's this oddball deck like, who the hell put this thing out? You're Googling the name of the deck and trying to find out who put it out, and it's just you find it on Kickstarter, the one lone deck that they put out with like 24 backers, and that was it. But it all has to be accurate because it's bound to happen where someone wants that deck.
Yeah.
It happens. So sorry, Chris. So if I order a deck that you don't have that Murphy's Magic has, it's got to get shipped to you and then you to me?
We thought about that for a while because the last thing we'd want is for someone to wait excessively for their order. But what we did, we put out a survey. It was a Google form that we sent out to about 136 different people that responded. And, we threw out different questions. What's most important when you're buying a deck of cards from a store? Or what's most important from a store in general? Is it price of the decks? Is it selection? Is it shipping speed? Is it how we pack the order? And I was surprised to find out that the lowest rated item was shipping speed. They put more concern, or it was a higher rating towards pricing and selection. So knowing that the vast majority of the respondents rated shipping speed last, essentially, it put us more at ease as far as the decision we wanted to go, because we wanted to have a system where we weren't manually updating every single deck that Murphy's puts out every single day, because that's really, really time consuming. If somebody orders and we sell out, then we got to get more, and it's always a constant, individual update within the system. Now it just allows us to run a CSV and upload it, and it only takes me maybe 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes tops to do an update, rather than, and that's how long it would take me to update, 2 or 3 decks. And some days Murphy's has a day where they will add like 9 or 10 decks in one shot. I mean, that gets time consuming, and then the manual ordering and adding back on the site. So if anything, it's just going to give us more time to concentrate on other areas of the store. I know the fulfillment aspect has been growing quite a bit. We have about, I think, 4 or 5 Kickstarter projects that we have scheduled down the road. And we have one ongoing fulfillment, which is expected to run through at least the middle of next year, if I understand it correctly.
Wow, nice. Yeah, well, I do know, as someone who's put out decks before, I've done the gambler's route for the fulfillment. I did myself as a fulfillment. Having someone like you is definitely a nice thing, a nice option, because I know I'm gonna, if my project funds, I'm gonna use you. But like just knowing how well you guys pack your stuff, because it's, I mean, you're known for that. You're known for your packaging. And how you guys actually care, and not when I get this first hollow deck and it came in a bubble mailer from Art of Play.
Oh God! And that's the thing that we've said this before, but not as a retailer, but as a collector, I mean, we hate getting stuff like that. And when it shows up in a bubble mailer as a collector, I mean, come on, that's not how I would want to receive a deck. And I'm sure I'm not the odd man out when it comes to collecting. If I see a bubble mailer, I'm like, no, this is not good. But if I see it in a box, then hey, that's going to be great. And then let alone in a DS1 in a box with a nice little cushion of bubble wrap. As a collector, that's why we started packing like that, because it became the question, if I were to order something and I had it delivered, if I had to choose the way I would want something delivered, what would that look like? And that's basically what we did for the store.
It makes complete sense. I mean, honestly, I've had, like Danny said, packages come from Art of Play and other people as well, and they just come in bubble mailers, and next thing you know, they come dinged and everything like that. And we all spend our hard-earned money to actually, buy these decks.
Sure.
And these are just our collectible items, and we want them to come in pristine condition. So, like for me personally, I know when I order from you, Henry, I know I'm going to have that deck in pristine order. It's going to come in perfectly all the time. And that's why I think a lot of people in this community just go to you always, because they trust you, they trust your packaging skills, and they trust the fact that they're going to get what they pay for.
I mean, the fact that there's a lot of stores right now, and that's not lost on us. And we see a lot of repeat customers, which is really, it's humbling to know that not only would someone come to our store, spend their hard-earned money on our site, but then to do it again and again and again. And let's be frank, some of the decks that are available out there, they're not cheap. They're not cheap at all.
No.
So when someone spends, anywhere between, well, actually, it really doesn't even matter how much it spends, because it's all relative. I mean, $25 for someone is a lot of money. And so it doesn't matter if a deck is $10, $100, or $250. It has to be packed the right way. The fact that you can't say, well, this deck only costs $5, so we're going to pack it like hell. No, it doesn't matter. The same way we pack a $300 deck is essentially the same way we pack, a random pack of rider-back bicycles. It's irrelevant what the deck costs. It's about getting it to the collector's hands in the best shape possible.
Yeah, and I truly appreciate it myself. I could probably speak for everybody in the community, and we all appreciate it.
And so, you've been doing the store, God, how long now? 3 years?
It's going to be 3 years in June.
Damn. Wow. I remember when I started this community in like 2017, late, and I met Lou, and then I remember seeing you. I don't know how I came across you, and I bought something on your Instagram Live back when you did those sales.
Yep.
Man, you've come a long way.
Well, that's why the funny thing is we really did not want to open a store. I have one friend in particular who kept on pushing, you need to open a storefront, do a storefront. I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. I can't see why we would have the bird to do that. Do you know how many supplies you would need? And but it got too cumbersome, and we were doing very well on Instagram, but it got hard to track, and we were getting messages all day long, and then it got to the point where people were, basically cursing me, saying, "I sent you a message, and what happened? You were supposed to sell to me." I'm like, well, quite frankly, I lost that message. We were just getting so many messages. It was nearly impossible to keep track, and eBay's not really a good option because the fees are just ridiculous.
Yeah, they're even worse now.
Yeah, it's terrible. So I finally caved, and I told my friend, I think we need to probably look at a store, not because we want to have a store, but just more from an organizational standpoint, because it just got too hard to keep track of people's messages on Instagram, and people were saying, well, how'd you forget about me? I'm like, it's simple. I just didn't forget. I just can't find you. You're buried amongst like 30, 40, 50 messages, and it was just getting impossible to keep track of, okay, this person wants this person wants that, on top of a day job. So that's kind of why we opened the store, because then people would send me messages, and I'd be able to say, SoCalPlayingCards.com. There it is. Go there, you'll find whatever you need, buy it, you're going to get it, So once we opened the store, it became relatively easy, because there's a paper trail. Here's the order. Here's what they ordered. It's going to go to this address, and I set a tracking information. It's all automatic. So after that, it became pretty easy. And then after that, it just the unexpected kind of happened with the tremendous amount of growth that we had.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how's Mrs. Cortez doing with the fact that you were gonna close the shop and now you're not really closing the shop, and you guys are going into fulfillment?
I think she likes the idea that we kept it open. She's noted on several occasions that I always have to be doing something. So even though I, go to work, come home, have dinner, and then kind of get on the store, it's probably a better thing than just me having enormous amounts of time to do probably something not so constructive.
like buying more bases to put on the wall behind you.
Buying more bases.
Yep.
Drinking way too much beer. So the fact that I have something to do, I think she likes it in the long run because I'm occupied. I'm doing something. I'm busy. I always have to be doing something. So I think she'd much rather me, attending to the store than doing something that's, definitely a little more self-destructive, I guess.
I mean,
no, makes sense.
Let's face it. I mean, I've been prone to do that from time to time.
I mean, we all have.
Sure.
I mean, hell, I work in the wine business, and for me, it's like I drink every day at work. I taste wines every single day I'm at work, and I actually told myself I will not be drinking when I come home. Yeah. So I have behind me a whole rack full of wine. I have a liquor cabinet, and I never touch it. Unless I have someone over, a friend or my girlfriend over, and I'm cooking dinner or having a social gathering, then. But otherwise, I'm like, I mean, there are other vices. So now it's more cards and podcasting now, and buying more podcasting equipment, as probably Dan could tell you that I've went a little bit overboard. But,
he's dropping King's Wild money on his equipment.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, it could be worse. I could be like buying season tickets to baseball games to the Yankees, and I really didn't do that.
Oh God, the Yankees. Henry's a huge Dodger fan. I'm an Oakland A's fan, and I know there's one thing we can come together on is that the Yankees can go to hell.
That and the Giants.
Yeah. Oh, definitely the Giants.
Oh, the Giants.
No, definitely the Giants.
No, the Giants for sure. Giants for sure. No. Yankees, no. Giants, yeah, they can go. Yeah. They can really go. Yeah, I mean, funny enough is I have not watched one single baseball game at all this season yet. Just because
I watch them all.
I've watched. Yeah, I was gonna say I've watched enough for you. Don't worry.
I don't.
If it's on, I'm watching it.
I don't have TV. I only have streaming services, and I barely have many of them. I mostly YouTube or Disney Plus or Netflix, and that's it. But otherwise, I'm literally playing games on my computer at work. So I'm just like, no time.
I've got T-Mobile, so they give you that the MLB app for free every year. So cha-ching.
Lucky.
Yeah. So baseball 24/7. Yeah. So and then you get a VPN, so then I can watch local games. So I'm covered.
Ah, smart.
Yeah.
Lucky.
There you go.
Lucky.
'Cause I don't have cable, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned when I moved into this apartment, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to have any cable TV. I'd rather just do internet services. And, I don't watch much TV as is anyway, so I'll just do that. And like a true New Yorker, we have multiple people's different logins. I have, I have my girlfriend's Netflix. I have my best friend's HBO Max. I have my own Disney Plus.
Nice.
You use other people's instead of your own.
We don't condone that here at Cards and Beards.
That would be wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get your own damn
I'm sorry.
passwords.
Yes. Family only.
Yes.
It should be only with family. But Henry, also, FYI, congratulations on an amazing Discord.
Oh, that was a huge thing. That
Discord is blowing up. It is amazing.
It was funny because somebody 3 weeks ago, I couldn't even tell you who it was. They said, their exact words were via the message, "You need a Discord server." And I said,
"A what?
No. What? How? No. I haven't even. No, it's not going to happen. We're not going to have a Discord server. And the response was, "Well, why not? Art of Play has a Discord server." And I said, "Well, first of all, Art of Play has like a team of people. They probably hired someone just to handle their Discord server. Two,
most people.
That's not going to be me. I could barely. I don't even have a login or anything." So literally like 2 weeks later, Max came up to me and said, "We need a Discord server." I'm like, "That's all you, buddy. That's all you. If you want to do that, I have no problem with it, but you're going to have to do the setup. You're going to have to help me monitor it because I just don't, one, I don't have the time, and two, that's not my area of expertise per se."
Yeah.
So he said, "Okay, cool." So he started doing it, and my daughter she's on Discord quite a bit, so she even helped out with a lot of the setup. And I think it was not even a full day, and they came up to me and said, "This thing's ready to roll." Already?
Kids.
And 24 hours later, I think we had 130 members or something. So the feedback has been really, really positive. But that's all my kids right there. Because if you asked me to set up a Discord server, I'd probably still be trying to figure out my login information.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I don't know. I think I know what it is, but I have no clue what it is. So I mean, yeah. Thank you, kids.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. From what I understand, they did a phenomenal job.
They really have. I mean, I use Discord. I'm not the biggest on Discord, but I do use it a lot. And your kids knocked it out of the park with that one.
Yeah,
I mean,
they did a good job. And it's funny because I go in every now and then, and that's the cool thing is that, obviously it's a SoCal Playing Cards Discord server, so I got to be on it, but it's not where I feel like I have to just to say that, well, it's my time on it. The interactions that some of the people have engaged in is actually pretty damn cool. I had a conversation with somebody over, probably a good 2-3 hours, just, playing cards and what I thought about this and opinions on that. I know a couple other recent controversial topics that came up. I know that was a big point of discussion.
I mean, we talked
Discovered quite a bit.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Not just
no.
It wasn't just. It wasn't just me trying to say, "Hey guys, sup, see ya, bye." It was actually it was a worthwhile discussions that were taking place.
Yeah, Discord I think is a great community building tool where it allows people who know, like SoCal, allows people to come together and actually have conversations and actually be able to build a community, hopefully for the better, for more positive things than negative. Granted, there are a lot of negative topics that will be, the sounding board that people want to talk about, and usually people on Discord will talk about it, or Danny and I talk about it on episode 7, hint hint, of this podcast. Sick plug.
I'm so sick of talking about OPC.
We said it, not you, Henry. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I think Discord is a great idea. I think it's a great tool, and I have it for different servers. Like I'm a nerd. I play Magic the Gathering, so I have a Magic the Gathering Discord server that I follow and I'm a part of, and I have a lot of friends on there that I'll play Magic the Gathering with. And it's it's great because then you could talk to other people, not even just about Magic, but just be like, hey, how are you? Good morning, or you just have other conversations besides that, and then you just build communication, build relationships and friendships, that go past one specific thing, whether it be playing cards or a card game or something else. That's the beauty of the internet nowadays. I mean, back in the day, you have to pick up a phone and call someone.
Yep.
And hopefully you remember their phone number.
God, remember that phone on the wall.
Yep.
Can't be on the phone at the same time as the internet.
Spiral cord, and then that thing always getting caught up, or then you go around the corner to the other room and you let it go, and all of a sudden the whole spiral cord comes back, and then it takes about a half hour to uncoil that thing, and then when you finally uncoil it, you go back out to the other room and you go back and it's coiled up again. Yeah. Or the
you ever get it all tangled up and you pull it and it snaps and you're like hitting yourself in the face?
All the time. All the time. You have to all the time.
And then you hear someone like breathing and you're like, "Mom, get off the line! Quit listening!"
Or better yet, back in the day when internet was first around, we had AOL. All of a sudden you hear, and all of a sudden your mother, and all of a sudden the parents would be like, "Kid, get off the internet. I need to use the phone."
Yep.
Yeah.
Funny, Brent and I were just talking about that, where now we don't even have a phone in the house, and we're so dependent on cell phones. We just don't have one. But you think back to where you remember Napster? Did you get in a hold of Napster?
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
To download like one song over the period of a nighttime, you're like, yes.
and you hope it's the right one, and you hope you got a good file.
It's not the remix or the live version. You're like, no, you download the wrong one. Yeah, 2 or 3 songs. If you get like 2 or 3 songs a night, that's a good night there on Napster.
Yep. And then pray to God you could actually get it onto a CD and burn it onto a CD.
Yep.
Without it skipping.
Without it skipping, and then all of a sudden you're walking.
Kids today don't know the struggle we all had to go through.
I thought I was such a badass because when I bought my first computer, I was able to buy one of those ones that had the two drives, so it would read and then burn at the same time. Oh, I was balling with all those CDs.
Hey, I used to have the old compact computers
Oh yeah, I remember. I think we still have one somewhere.
The one with the speakers on the side of the monitor, where you hook them up to the side of the monitors, so it looks like your monitor has ears. So yeah, that was my computer. That was my. I even remember going to school when I was in high school. We had computer class, and we had to save everything on floppy disks.
Yep.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, like really? And now looking back, we're like, oh right, there's floppy disks, and nowadays computers, cassette tapes.
Remember cassettes?
Oh my God!
Oh, it's so cool. It's blue. I mean, dude, I still have this from freaking '94.
Oh,
what the hell?
Sweet.
Have you ever seen the funny video about a parent giving their now, I would say about 12-year-old kids a cassette tape and a tape player? Be like, here, play this, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. And but then they actually figure it out. She hits play, so it starts playing. It finishes the cassette. They're like, oh man, it finished. She's like, hold on, takes the cassette, flips it over, puts it back in. They're like mind blown. Like, wow, the struggle we had. And then all of a sudden, when it had to when you unwound the whole thing with the pencil, had to go back and we all did that. Or better yet, having a 2 cassette radio and going and listen to the radio, and all of a sudden, when a song comes on, you want to hit record, but you got to make sure you hit the right one, because there's 2 cassettes, 2 different mixtapes, and then you pray to God the DJ doesn't talk while the song is going on.
Oh yeah,
man, those were the days.
Oh, kids don't know the struggle.
Oh no,
they don't know.
Now you can download an entire album, 30 seconds.
Yep.
I mean, do we even call it albums now?
No, they do.
Oh yeah,
they do. Oh,
you should do yourself a service and listen to a whole album when an artist comes out with one. Okay, come on now.
I don't listen
I think
to
that's
music.
where music has changed. I think that's a big change where, it used to be kind of focused on the album in its entirety, but I think with the whole advent of iTunes and all the other music services, I think people are more focused on just a single.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple singles. I don't think, for the most part, people really listen to albums, start to finish. I still do, depending on the artist.
So
but I think in general, some people are like bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So like what they do now, let's say I have an album coming out in 2 months. Well, every week I'm going to release a song from it, so it kind of keeps them relevant because attention spans and everything. So by the time the album releases, well, they've already released half the album.
Yeah.
Even crazier, like with music for me, like I'm an old school classic rock guy, or I'm a big fan of Queen. That's one of my favorite bands of all time. Freddie Mercury is my favorite singer of all time, so I will listen to. That's one of the very few artists I will actually listen to whole albums of. Otherwise, it's like But now
experience.
Yes, it's 100% an experience. It's like back then they actually played instruments, wrote their own songs, and did everything live. Versus nowadays, everything is synthesized, and they have teams of writers, and it's like they're sound biting off other people, and you're like, really, this is not the way I personally think music should be. It should be, unique or coming from you, or you create it. And I'm just like, I think a lot of artists nowadays, for music anyway, have lost that.
Oh yeah.
I think the industry has definitely changed. I think I've always called it the force feeding of certain types of music. I think it's probably stronger now than ever.
Mm-hmm.
I've always stuck the 90s pretty, because you have these, indie rock bands that came out and people gave them a fair shake. And I think those types of bands came out now. It's extremely difficult to try to find that type of music or to have it heard on, regular mainstream radio, where back 10, 20 years ago, that was pretty common to hear something, oh, this is brand new and no one's ever heard of it and it's kind of different. Where right now, it seems like generally, for the most part, most stuff seems to sound the same.
Yeah. I'm old. I don't really like TikTok, but I'm on TikTok, and that's where I'm finding a lot of new artists. Like I listen to country, and country radio is just terrible. We hardly even have it out here in the Bay Area anymore. But I found so many cool independent underground country people on TikTok, and some pop punk bands too that I would have never ever have found. So I found out that there's a whole world out there where people just promote their stuff on there. I had no idea, and then now that's all I see, and I love it because it's stuff you wouldn't. It's like like you said back in the day, listening to the radio, like you hear random ass people you never knew, and then you start exploring them. So it's totally changed, but almost the same thing. You just got to know where to look. Like it's all social media now.
Yeah.
I think the good thing for us, the best thing that happened for me was we bought a car and it had Sirius XM in it. and they have different channels that are more tailored towards your more independent, unknown types of rock bands. XMU comes to mind. Well, of course, there's like your Radiohead, but then you have someone you're like, who the hell is this? I kind of dig it, you know. And then you dive into a little bit further and find out that there still are bands out there. You're right. You gotta know where to find those bands.
Yeah.
And it's just sad that we've come to that point now where also like we use social media stars like these TikTokers get big out of nowhere for one single or like one 15-second video they become huge, and next thing you know they're millionaires, and you're like, really?
Yeah, I wanna put out one song and make it rain, and
right.
Ferraris,
I'll sell out. I'm fine.
Yeah,
rolls and diamonds. That'd be awesome.
Oh, God, the world we've come into now with that social media controls everything. It's like, jeez. I mean,
you see Elon bought Twitter today, huh?
Yep.
I didn't see that. He actually bought it.
He bought it today. Happen. $44 billion.
I was gonna say, I heard it was either 42 or 44. I was like, wow. Yeah. And did he say he was gonna go pure public with that company now, or he's gonna
take it all private?
Yeah. I think it's gonna go public.
And he's claiming freedom of speech on it, so we'll see what happens.
Should be an interesting experiment.
Yeah. So do you think everybody that was banned on Twitter is coming back?
I mean, not to get political or anything in here, but
I'm not even saying.
I'm just saying. If he is all for free speech, then I guess Donald Trump has to be let back, right? Just saying.
He said he wasn't going to. He said he was probably going to decline that, but I think you have both ends of the spectrum who are going to be taking a look back, like, do I really want to engage back into this? Because
right, exactly,
it runs on both sides.
Yeah. That's actually the one thing I never got into Twitter personally. I could never get. I was one social media platform I just never got into.
I use it for sports, and that's it.
I don't have it at all.
It's a great way to follow your sport writers and your beat writers to get really in depth in your team. But that's pretty much all I use it for.
Yeah, I had it on my phone, never used it. I deleted it. I'm like, okay, I'm not using it. So, I'm like, whatever. I'm more on Instagram or I'm on Facebook. Facebook is barely, it's more of like, it's there. It's more, Facebook for me is more of like, hey, I have family in Europe that I need to keep in contact with. So I keep that up, but I'm mostly on Instagram now. So I'm like, okay, it just makes more sense for me. And it's like everybody I know, like, honestly, I have more closer friends on Instagram, like this crazy guy over here, you know, and compared to real life, you know, I have more friends there than anywhere else. But, you know, it's a good thing. You keep your circle smaller and you're able to talk to more people and, you know, get to know people across the world.
And then if you don't want to, block.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I feel bad because I've been invited to the same playing card collector group on Facebook. I have been invited already like a dozen different times from about two dozen different people. I just don't have time. I'm barely have enough time to get on Instagram and, you know, track the messages and do updates. And cause here's the normal course of the day on Instagram is kind of funny for us because it looks completely random, but there is a schedule that we kind of have to adhere to. Every time we post auctions, it has to go saying, okay, we have all these auctions that just got posted. When those auctions end, we ideally want to put a timer in the story saying, hey, these auctions are going to end, you know, in 6 hours or 5 hours, whatever. So if you do that every single day, I have to get on Instagram every day after putting auctions on the site every day, you know, to let everybody know, hey, these auctions are up. And then 2 days later, hey, these auctions are going to end.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, with the work that I do, I might be out of town. That is not going to happen, or I'll have meetings that last like 3 or 4 hours. So it's a bit tricky at times because you want to have it like at a relatively set time, not to get people used to it. It's because you fall into a routine. You want to try to stick to that as much as possible. And when that doesn't happen, then it gets a little tricky with just the normal course of the day, that the way it plays out.
No, it makes sense. I mean, there are apps that I know and websites that you can use that actually you can schedule posts. So you can actually, you know, maybe pre-do them earlier on, have either, you know, Max or Ruby do them, or your wife make the post and actually save it. And then once the time and day hits, it'll actually push it to your Instagram. So that way you don't have to worry about it. So you could probably set up like the auctions maybe like a day or two beforehand if you know you're going to be away on business or at a meeting, and then it'll automatically push it. A lot of Instagram influencers actually do that. They will do a ton of posts all in one day, and then they will schedule their posts so that way they spread them out, so they don't have to worry about like, oh my god, I have to do a post right now. Let me make sure I take a picture, or let me make sure I tag someone. You do all that ahead of time, and it'll automatically do it for you.
Yeah, I need to look into that, especially with some of the auctions, because again, we've started doing a lot of consignment. So being that some of it not mine, I want to make sure I get the reminder. I try to maximize the benefits for whatever consignment partner I have at that time. And there have been times where I just can't get to it because I'm out on the road or on a plane or whatever. So having something like that where I can schedule something, that would make my life a lot easier, to be honest.
Yeah, I know there are some websites that do it. One that I use right now that I've been doing more for the cards and beards for our like promotional things as far as like stories or posts, it's canva.com. And Canva, you can actually create or use their templates and create some nicer posts and actually have it scheduled to post onto your Instagram later on. That's what I use.
New every day.
I know, right? I'm actually learning as we go too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
That's the cool thing about this community is that the cool thing is when I've talked about certain things I'm trying to accomplish, there have been people send me messages saying, oh, you need to look at this, or you need to try that. Have you thought about doing this, this, and this? And some of those ideas, I'm like, that's a really good freaking idea. We're going to do that, and we've actually implemented a lot of the suggestions that people have sent us via messages saying, hey, you want to make your life easier by doing this, this, and this? You need to try this. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome, and we've been able to do that.
Yeah, that is that. I echo that with anything. It's the websites are like I put a few weeks ago. I put a thing out going, "Hey, I need some doodles for the back of my tuck case I'm working on." Oh my lord! I was expecting like 2 people. I got like I think like 50 messages for it with samples,
nice.
And I'm like, because I told them, hey, if I use it, then I'll get you a prototype or something, whatever. But like, I was not expecting that, and I love that. Or people will ask you like, hey, how you doing, or if you haven't talked. Like, I talk to Luke Wadey every now and then, but if I don't talk to him for 3 days, he's like, hey, you doing okay? Like, yeah, man, it's okay.
Yeah, same
Luke's awesome. I like that guy a lot. He's really cool.
Him. Yeah,
Luke is a freaking legend. I love him. Honestly, you could talk about anything, whether it be soccer or sports in general or just craziness of life. He'll just talk to you about anything. It doesn't matter with him. He'll even you could probably message him at like 4 a.m. our time and his time and he's up.
I feel like he's always awake.
That dude does not sleep. Seriously, he does not sleep at all.
Cyborg.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, geez, he's always working. But God bless him. I mean, he's literally doing a ton of work. Last I heard from him. I mean,
I talked to him about something. He's backed up to mid to late May.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I get that from like I know you both know John, aka CNC Deck Cuts. Of course. John and I, good friends. There'll be times where he might not hear from me from a couple days. He'll just message me out of nowhere and be like, "Hey man, just want to see how you doing. How are you? Haven't heard from you in a bit. Hopefully you're okay." And getting those messages from random people that you just met via Instagram through the community that you build friendships. You're like, "Oh, hi," and it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like, "Oh shit, people actually like who you are and want to talk to you." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, that is cool. Every once in a while, we'll get a message like that. I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, man. Thanks for reaching out."
And speaking of people, on Instagram, how is it like when you go to like a Fontaine drop or somewhere and people like look at you? Do they? How's that feel like? Do you feel like you're a celebrity to some of these people?
No. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw that story where Chris Haig, I hope I'm saying his last name right, from Wondercraft.
Yeah.
What I saw was in San Diego just on business. It has nothing to do with the store. It was completely, solely only for my day job. And so we just happened to, my manager said, hey, you know a place to go eat? And yeah, there's a little Italian food place because we spend a bit of time in San Diego. So we go in that little Italian food place and I see his shirt. I think pretty sure he sees me, and we do one of these. I at least for mine, I'm like, I think I know that guy. I want to say I know that guy, and he must have been doing the same thing. So order food, sit down. He comes over and he says, "You look familiar," and I'm like, I knew it. And he says, "Yeah, I'm Chris Head from Wondercraft." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm Henry Cortez, SoCal Playing Cards." Yeah, I knew it. You look very familiar, seeing you on your lives. And my manager, who knows we have a shop. After Chris went back to go with his family and his son came over, he was a nice kid, and he says, I can't believe what I just saw. He goes, you're like a celebrity. And I'm like, no. I wouldn't go that far. Because I in all honesty, I think the fact that I have a day job where people don't know what the hell SoCal Playing Cards is completely grounding. You can't get a big head about it, because there's the other half of my entire life where people have no clue what it is. Like, hey, I'm SoCal Playing Cards. They'd be like, so?
Yeah.
Get back to your spreadsheet, man. So I think that keeps me, it prevents me from having a big head, because I could say, well, I'm SoCal Playing Cards, and be like, who the hell cares? Yeah. So that's, go.
I was gonna say, I mean, within our community, within the playing card community in general, you are like a celebrity, because the fact that people really do respect you and your whole family for everything you do for the card community, which says it says volumes about you guys. And the fact that the community got up in arms when you were like thinking of closing your shop, and the whole community just was like in an uproar, like, no, you can't have this. What are we gonna do? We're never gonna get good decks anymore. It just. Yeah. It really shows that people truly respect you and the family.
It's humbling, because again, I would never say that I'm a flat out celebrity. I think it's more accurate to say I have a lot of friends that I've met on Instagram. Yeah. I would never go as far as to say it's a celebrity thing, because it just seems silly for me to have that mindset. My kids have seen it, and obviously Brenda has seen it at different drops, the Fontaine thing. And they think it's funny. They think, oh my God, this guy just came up to you and wants to take his picture with you. And I'm like, I'll do it. That's fine. It's a neat feeling, but I don't think it's anything that should ever go to your head necessarily, because in the grand scheme of things, I mean, you could disappear off of Instagram tomorrow, and over time, those things just fade away. I mean, there's really nothing to grasp at, in the grand scheme of things. I'm happy that I have a job. I'm happy the store is working out, and I'm happy that people, again, come to the store and buy something and they choose us. And I think that's really, really cool. So we have to do everything we can to make sure they're taken care of. But celebrity, it's for me, it's silly. It's silly to think of it in those terms. As far as the store closing, I just hope that people don't think it was a bit, because it wasn't a bit. I was burnt out. I was frustrated. It just felt that it wasn't lack of appreciation. It was just too much. It was just burning me out. And but then I realized that it was still a lot of fun. We've met a lot of great people. We've made a lot of great friends. I mean, even Mrs. Cortez, she's in the card community become a little bit of a name. Again, I don't want to say celebrity, but people, when you bring up, if you have a conversation with the community, you can ask somebody, do you know Mrs. Cortez is? I would gather to say, yeah, you might get an answer here and there. Oh, yeah, it's SoCal's wife.
Mm-hmm. I love the fact that we all call her Mrs. Cortez.
Mrs. Cortez, yeah.
Like, it's so great.
I just love how we all default to that.
I mean, I grew up with that. You always, I went to Catholic school in my life, so you always say Miss or Mrs., Mr., you always respectfully by the last name all the time.
Except it's just Henry.
Yeah, Henry.
Not Mr. Cortez.
No, but
fine.
But Henry's Henry. Mrs. Cortez is Mrs. Cortez. Yeah. You can't mix up the two.
Somebody pointed out that I had no idea. I didn't put it together, but even on the thank you cards, she signs it Mrs. Cortez.
Yep.
It's not Brenda. It's Mrs. Cortez every single time, and I think it's part of the charm. And I know some of it we talk about, and we have fun with it. And I think that's where I started to get a little burned out, because when we first started the store, we were having a lot of fun with it. I mean, our hamsters are quality control technicians. Yeah. We used to give tours of our house, like at the warehouse. Oh, this is the loading area, and it's like my car, and here's the fulfillment area, and it's just some random table.
It's your bed.
Here's the warehouse. Yeah, exactly. So, I think for a time there, we stopped letting it be fun, and it started to feel like a job. And I think one of the initial discussions that, Mrs. Cortez and I had was, when it stops being fun, it starts feeling like a job. I already have a day job. She already has a day job. The last thing we want is another day job.
Yeah.
So I think once and I don't remember what point it started to become fun again, but it did. I don't know if it was like the first podcast and then people were asking us questions and just some of the messages we get on Instagram just, really crack me up, and some of them really feel good. And we'll get a straight email from time to time about how they've never seen packing like this, even though it went to like Japan. And that's the thing that's cool too, is some of the places that we send orders. We've sent places, or sent them to like Malta. Brenda pointed out, this one's going to Estonia, this one's going to Hong Kong, this one's going to Japan, this one's going to Belgium, the Netherlands, France. I wish we would have made a map and we would have got like push pins.
Yeah.
Because I think now there would just be, push pins like all over the freaking place. It'd probably look like, one of those Delta Airlines flying zone maps. But that's the thing that I think it's cool, because it's not just, we're SoCal Playing Cards, and we're always going to be SoCal Playing Cards, but to think of everywhere that people have bought from, it's truly global. My dad, he laughs. I don't share this information too much, but he goes, "How's the store going?" I'm like, "Oh, it's really, really busy, Dad." And sometimes I'm like, I'm busy. I can hear the stupid little the label maker. He goes, "Where'd you get is that a zebra?" I'm like, "Yeah, we have a zebra label maker." And he goes, "We have those in the warehouse." I'm like, "I know, it wasn't cheap. We paid a lot of money for that thing." But he goes, "How good is it really going? Is it worth the while?" And so I told him at that time, like, "Okay, so we've been open for this long. Our sales figures are blah blah blah." And I remember he was drinking. He goes, "What?" Yes. So, and I know the joke was in the beginning that the store wasn't profitable, because it wasn't. But I think now that your first year is always going to be kind of crash and burn, because you're learning what to buy, and some stuff you think is going to be fantastic. You buy like a case, and then you still have some of that case like 2 years later. Supplies and pricing and figuring out shipping. That's the tricky part, is shipping. Ugh. Shipping's a disaster to try to figure out, because you want to keep it affordable, but you can't lose too much money at the same time. So the first year was a disaster. Second year, kind of break even. Last year, the store went well. The store did very well, and it's not from, we're not making tons of money, but it's nice to have money like when we need to buy a new fence because the wind destroyed it. We bought a new fence. Brenda needed her Nomad fixed. We fixed her Nomad. Our air conditioner failed. We bought a new air conditioner. So it's not like we're buying, it's not all Jordans and Louis Vuitton handbags.
Well, see, that's the thing that people need to learn is if you're selling stuff and you're making money, save it, spend it wisely.
Yeah.
That's what we did. I mean, just for the sake of conversation, we carried for a while. I have no problem sharing this. We carried for a while a significant portion of credit card debt. It's gone. It's gone. We paid it off at the store, and that's what we wanted to accomplish first before we started buying like stupid stuff like Air Jordans and Louis Vuitton handbags. Is that you got to take care of all the stuff you need to take care of first. All your responsibilities as as a husband and a father. Yep. Fence broken, we fix the fence. The air conditioner broken, hell no, I'm not gonna be sweating my ass off here getting a new air conditioner. So all these little things that popped up, and there was actually, we figured it out, and like, dude, we took care of a lot of not just the little extra things, but the essentials that this family like needs. Mm-hmm. If anything, it put our family in just a better financial position. I don't think that's an unreasonable goal that we were able to achieve that.
No, and I think that's also an all-American dream to a certain respect, because, starting off a little store a few years ago, and now actually be able to help your family in situations shows, you've actually did it. You hard work and dedication, and you're able to provide.
Sure, and that's why I don't have a problem, like if I want to buy like a pair of shoes or buy this or that, or if my kids want something, like, yeah, sure, that's not a problem, because we took care of everything we needed to take care of first, and that was not an insignificant amount of money. I mean, we threw a lot of money, and then our tax bill. I mean, we learned if you have a store that's doing pretty well, it was a 5-figure tax bill, and we had to figure out how to come up with a 5-figure sum of money to pay that off, and we were in a position to do that. And I'm actually, there's a little bit of pride in seeing that you're able to pay off a 5-figure tax bill without sweating it. And that's the position we were in, and now we don't have to. Because I think 3 years ago we have $10,000 tax bill. I'm like, holy crap! All these things would have been gone.
Yeah. I mean, I do that with my business, with my job, I should say, because I run a wine shop, like I said. But in New York, we actually have to pay taxes every 3 months. So every quarter.
I have to do that now.
Yeah, so we do our tax. We have to pay taxes every quarter, and for my shop alone, we're paying a 6-figure tax every quarter, because the store does really well, and it's a lot more money than other stores. So it's like, okay, 6 figures. My boss is like, listen, we're fine, we can handle it. Just make sure we're still selling. I'm like, don't worry about that, So, but when I start hearing the numbers, I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know how you can just be calm about it and just say, hey, a 6-figure tax bill paid off easy. I'm just like, okay, I want to get there somehow,
Oh, so. Don't get me wrong. The first time I did the numbers, I'm like, oh my God, we have to pay what? But then, we look at where we're at. We're like, okay, that's not going to be. I mean, it hurts. And don't get me wrong. I'd rather have that money for something else. But knowing that it's taken care of. I mean, that's pretty cool to think about. That I don't have to sell stuff like this, or I don't have to get rid of, the decks that I really, really want to hang on to.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling to know that we're able to look at a bill like that and think, okay, the store took care of it.
Awesome.
Which is great. Which is honestly a great feeling. Should be a great feeling in my opinion.
And now I'm gonna kind of segue into some. We asked people to give us some questions.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was about
good one.
I was gonna say he just said he didn't want to sell his favorite deck. So the first question on here, which I'm pretty sure I think I know the answer to this, is someone asked what your favorite deck is. All time.
There's, what, I love the Golden Nugget decks. There's just something about the nostalgia of the Golden Nugget deck. They came in different colors. Still think of like those old Vegas rooms that'll take you back and break your legs, and the mafia, run organizations. I love the Golden Nugget decks. I mean, that's what got me sucked into the card collecting community, because I bought one, and then I'm like, oh, they come in different colors, and then you do more homework. I'm like, oh, there's different generations, and then, oh my God, Jerry's Nuggets, what's that? And then you're typing, and you go to different collecting, and then you're just down the rabbit hole. And then that's why I found out King's Wild Project and Fontaine and this and that. And
that was me last year.
Oh my God,
that was me last year when I first got into this community. All of a sudden, I started buying a couple decks, and all of a sudden I found Henry's site, and I'm like, Henry probably was getting tired of me. He was getting like a couple orders a week from me, just sending out orders to me. I'm just like, oh damn it! And all of a sudden I started looking. I'm like, I actually have the Shop Pay app where you can actually track all your packages. So I started seeing all my packages. I'm like, wait, SoCal. I'm like,
don't ever do that. Don't ever look at your history.
I'm just like, oh my God, how much did I spend? But then, but we all go through it. We all, as collectors, we go through that little, learning curve, so to speak, to be like, okay, now we pull back. We don't buy as much. We only spend when we really want. Being more responsible, as all three of us are fathers, and we have a family to take care of. So it's like, okay, let's rein it in a little bit.
I think every collector, especially new collectors, go through that, where you buy a deck and you see when you want, and then you just go in this
buy everything
bell curve, and then it sustains. And even Max pointed out, because Dad, do you remember you were getting like big boxes every day just filled with cards? And I think the trap that at least I fell into was I was buying stuff that I didn't even necessarily like. I mean, there'd be decks that I thought that were horrifically hideous, and I'm still buying it anyway just because I don't have it. I want as many as I can. So I'm buying just garbage stuff. And then you realize, okay, you fall into a niche of the stuff that you really, really like. Like this year, for example, I think I've only bought maybe a dozen decks. I mean, you see some stuff from Murphy's that comes in, and I'm like, okay, that one's kind of cool, but do I like it enough to keep it and take up space? Not so much.
Yeah.
So it's only the decks that I see them and they immediately grab me, rather than I'm going to try to convince myself that I need to hang on this deck from now until the end of time. So if I see a deck, and it doesn't even have to be an expensive deck, it even could be like these were only, what, $9, the Notorious Frog?
Love that deck.
It's like $10. Awesome deck. Yeah, this one's a keeper.
Yep.
And then there's some that
damn right.
It's a fantastic deck of cards. It's awesome. And it's only like $9-10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
That one's one of those I never bought.
Yeah, $9 from a $9 deck from Stockholm, nonetheless.
Right, and it's completely custom. So, yeah, I mean, and there's even some like bicycle decks only cost like $5 or $6. I'm like, hey, that's really rad. And then there's some others like $37. I'm like, no, I think I'll pass on that one.
Yeah. So that actually segues into a good question here. So there's another question that we got from our, what we posted. We were like, hey, someone wants to ask, will you ever make a hollow SoCal deck?
I was this close to reaching out to somebody. I know they were really good with renders and such. Just for the hell of it, I was going to ask them to render up the SoCal deck, but holographic and with a holographic gilding, just to see what it looked like. I said, no, I'm not going to waste my time because people still seem to love the hollow stuff. I don't want to say that I'm over it. It's just it's been done quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's been done
I agree.
a lot.
Yeah. I think it's oversaturated. People are I hope are kind of over it. Gilding went a little crazy, but now I think that's just kind of like now normal into our collecting now. Like everybody's accepted gilding, but hollow, I don't think it's going to have that kind of traction. I don't think.
Yeah, there's a lot of holographic decks out there, and I know the first time it came, I was like, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah.
But I think, especially with the SoCal deck, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the it's like, I'm not going to put sugar on a piece of crap. I'm not going to holograph the SoCal deck. No. Well, the bottom line, too, is I just don't have that many of them anymore. I thought about gilding some. I was going to have them gold gilded and just call it the California Special or the Golden State Edition, something like that. And then I found out I just don't have any more because you want to do at least a case. I think I don't have like 60. So we're almost out.
That's crazy.
Which that's a whole other crazy story. But of course it crosses your mind. Different. Is it hollow gilded or gold gilded or
I don't know
rainbow or this or that or
a red gilded SoCal deck was pretty nice.
I thought about red. I thought about green, but I think it would lend itself too much to a Christmas looking because it's a lot of red, a lot of green anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that was one thing that was kind of dissuading me from it was I don't want it to look like anything too Christmassy. Not that I love me from Christmas. But yeah, I kind of like the idea of the Golden State Edition with the gold gilding, but it just didn't happen.
Well, you can do a gold hollow version.
Make
the whole deck gold.
Why isn't there a gold holographic? Everyone has there's a silver holographic. I've seen gold. I mean, we've collected enough baseball cards in our day to have a gold-ish holographic rather than a silver-based one.
Give it time. I'm sure someone will do it, unless it's impossible on a gilding. I don't know.
That'd be rad though. I think it'd be cool.
I mean, anything could be possible, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know for a fact there were baseball cards that were gold but holographic at the same time.
Right.
I know it's been done. I know I've seen it.
I know for a fact as far as with Magic the Gathering, there are cards that are holographic but have almost as well as gold embossed on the card.
Oh, nice.
While being holographic at the same time. You're like, how is this possible? And come to find out it was actually done by Cardamundi. You're like,
oh, really?
Yeah, because I actually found out that Cardamundi is actually one of the main printers for Wizards of the Coast that prints, that does Magic the Gathering. So they use Cardamundi. So I'm like, so they're doing embossed cards, not on the tuck, but on the cards themselves, plus foil, plus hollow.
Nutty.
A lot going on there. Doesn't sound cheap at all.
I've actually seen some individual cards go for $40 a card.
Oh, dang.
Jesus.
Yeah. When you get into that game, it's there are cards back from when it first started back at 26 years ago that the original cards are worth $1,000 per card.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, here, so flowing right into a question you probably get every day.
All the time.
V2.
Yeah.
I get that question almost every day also.
Yeah.
People ask me all the time. I would love to do one. I have a couple things on my wish list that I would like to do, though. Definitely not going to do on my own. I mean, the first one, we got really lucky that people were receptive to it. We kept it cheap. V2, I want it to be as equally as cheap. I don't want it to be more than about $8, but I want it to be completely custom. So I know that's a really, really tall order to make that happen. I would like to find a designer or an artist to help me out. And I know it's probably going to be a break-even proposition, but, again, the cards that we put out, I mean, we've only put up one deck, but it's never really been about the money. It's just more of putting stuff out there for the love of the hobby, the love of the industry. So knowing that I'm going to have to throw a considerable sum of money to an artist to, get what we want to do done, I still want to have it for about $8 a pop. So if I know I'm going to be, compensating the artist accordingly, that might not leave much room, if any at all, but it doesn't matter. I just want to see it come out. So probably going to be a little bit arm twisty with Mrs. Cortez, but I would love to have it too. Probably not going to be as big of a print run. I think the market overall kind of speaks to, at least from my vantage point. I don't think there's no reason why we would want to print 2,500 decks again. But short answer is, yeah, I would love to have a V2. Oh, speaking of Mrs. Cortez, we're talking about V2 coming out in the year. It was asked if you think it's funny that people call you Mrs. Cortez still.
No, because I'm a teacher, so they call me that every day.
Yeah.
See that? And she just wants everybody to call her that, which is totally fine.
Well, honestly, I think if you had to choose, Henry, who would be like your top? I'm not gonna say top person, but let's say top handful of designers you would like to work with, if you could, on the V2. Because it's hard to pick. I know we don't want to say one, so that's what I'm saying. Let's do a handful.
There's a few designers that, off the top of my head, I would love to work with. Now, whether they'd want to work with me, that's a whole different ballgame.
I mean, who wouldn't?
I've got the same. I've got the ones that I really want to do my senior year, but I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah, because I mean, it's anyone would probably say, well, I want to work with Stockholm 17, a low track, blah, blah. No. You got to take those names out.
Yeah.
I would love to work with Jade Vinga. I hope I'm not screwing up her name.
Yeah.
I've always liked her work. I know the fact she's Russia's probably problematic right about now, but her art skills, I've always been a fan of what she's done. I've always liked her art ability.
Yeah.
In some weird way, I would think it'd be really cool if I was able to work with Luke Wadey, only because just to see what he could do with the logos as far as the lines and the symmetry or the asymmetry, however you want to call it. I would like to see what he might be able to come with as far as the SoCal deck's concerned. I think that'd be fun to see, if we went that route, what the end result be. Mm-hmm. Who else? Elettra.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I like her stuff a lot. I would still hold out hope. I know he's got a lot of play. I would still like to say Jackson, even though he's like one of the ones that might be totally unattainable.
Yeah.
You can't have a completed Hail Mary unless you try. So yeah, I think
True.
that'd be a fun one.
I think Jackson would be on anybody's list.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of people reached out. I'm not going to say, but privately, I'm like, oh, that'd be an interesting combination. Yeah, there's a couple. I know for a fact I'm missing a few. But yeah, I think Jada Venga comes to mind. Luke Wadey comes to mind.
Yep.
A letter comes to mind. Those are the ones that every time I see them draw something out or some of the art gets posted, I'm like, man, that's cool. That's cool. Oh, what the hell's his name? I should know his name because I fulfilled his stuff. Beyond Playing Cards, the one who did the chili.
Oh,
Stephen O'Neill. Stephen O'Neill.
Yes. I like his stuff a lot too.
Yep.
I know he posts like pictures of the birds or different things. I'm like, that's really freaking cool. I think something like that where it almost looks like a logo but could stand alone as maybe a court card. I think that'd be really fun. And that's again, it's about keeping it fun. I don't want a deck that's overly serious or I don't want people to say, oh, look at Henry's deck, that's really super pretentious. I don't want that. I want something that's going to be fun. I want to have like a hamster riding the bicycle on the Joker, kind of like
Dude, that'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, something like that. I want it to be fun. I don't want it to be, overly. Yeah, it's got to be fun for me, or else I'm not doing it.
No, it makes complete sense.
Nice.
I mean, And honestly, I think people would love that deck. Whoever would work with you and whoever chooses to work with you. I mean, first off, anybody who's listening to this, if you're one of them that Henry just said, please work with them. We would love to see V2 come out. We would love to see this come out as a community. But at the same time, now here's the bigger question, Henry, for you. Would you decide to go to Kickstarter then with the V2, or would you just self-print and do it your own?
That's a great question. I mean, we took a huge gamble with the SoCal deck because we had to pay. I mean, we bought a lot of them. The original plan was not to do 2,500. The original plan was to do 1,000, but we just missed the deadline for the crushed stock. You can't get crushed stock unless you order 2,500. So it was a gamble because that's a lot of decks, and that's a tremendous amount of decks if your name is not Zach Mueller or Chris Orbit or anybody really.
Yep.
And and also keep in mind, we don't do Magic, we don't do cardistry. Who the hell? How are we going to sell 2,500 decks? We don't do any of that, But nonetheless, we decided, let's just do it because I didn't want to have any regrets with the first deck. I wanted to be on premium stock. I wanted it to be crushed. I wanted the Pantone inks. I wanted it traditionally cut. That was really, really important because it's easy to put out a deck of cards, well, at least in my opinion. It's easy to put out a deck, but I wanted it to be done right the first time. I wanted to have all those check boxes checked off. And it wasn't cheap. And there is a part of me that also feels if we try to do it via Kickstarter,
you won't be able to keep it to that $8.
Failed. That and I just can't handle rejection like that. I can't. So if we looking at it now, I would have to know what the finished product is going to look like before I decide to pull the trigger in a Kickstarter. Because if I see it, I'm like, oh my God, this is a can't miss, then yeah, it's an easy decision. But if there's even like the slightest feeling like borderline, I don't think I'd go the Kickstarter route. I'd probably want to self-fund it. And that was a big gamble.
Well, yeah, 2,500 decks.
That's a lot of money and a lot of decks.
Yeah, the biggest thing for us, though, and probably the most, what we're most proud of, is when we finally got those decks in hand and we had the pre-sale. The pre-sales within 24 hours were so strong that the deck was paid for. That was an extremely relieving moment when we did the math. I'm like, we already broke even. And the pre-sale, we ended it. It was done. And once we finally got all the decks in, we did pre-sale because we knew the decks were going to come in like 3 or 4 days. And then we shut it down because then we had to get them to like Murphy's and blah, 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 blah. And then once the window opened back up, we sold more and word started to spread and people. The other thing that I'm proud of, not just that it broke even, was that we started to get a lot of people telling us that the deck handled great. And I'd rather hear that more than, oh, the deck looks nice. Because this was, aimed towards, I'm not going to say it's a Magic deck, but it's cool to know that people who, perform some level of cardistry reached out like, man, this deck feels fantastic. What did you do? I'm like, crushed B stock. That's really it. So the fact that people were pretty happy with the way it handled, I liked hearing that more than, oh, it's kind of cool, or, the price is nice. I mean, the fact that people thought it handled exceptionally well for what it is, we were really happy to hear that.
It's a great feeling that you can't really explain. Yeah.
I mean, I know I love that deck. I have a half brick right now of it. I got the half brick as well as the family signed edition as well. I had to get the family signed. Yeah,
but do you have a family? Do you have a family signed uncut sheet hanging on your living room wall?
No, I don't.
Ooh.
No, I don't.
Mm-hmm. Not a lot of those.
No.
Nope.
Actually, the only uncuts I have are actually Danny's uncut sheets that are signed.
Nice.
Those are the only ones I own right now, currently.
Because they were cheap.
They were. 20 bucks, 25 bucks.
Shipped.
I was like, okay, I'll take them.
Nice.
So basically, they just pay for shipping because shipping on those things, as Henry knows, those tubes are heck of expensive to ship.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yeah, I did a fulfillment project and they had like 6 uncut sheets that they needed sent out. I'm like, I have to buy 25 of them. You can't buy six. You can't buy 6 tubes. You know, when you get them from Elon, you got to buy them by
a giant ass box. Yep, I got it right behind me.
Yep. I still have a bunch of tubes that look like. I'm like, what am I gonna do with these things?
Yep. You just start playing lightsabers, playing Star Wars with them.
Yelling at my dog like, get over here, you know. As
a green bubble wrap. I mean,
that's we find though when it gets to the end though, it gets kind of thin. So you have to use more of it, which 10 cents a sheet. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Oof. So talking about California, because I saw this question get submitted and I kind of took offense to it. So it's like the question is California as bad as people make it out to be?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't either. It's expensive as shit, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Hey, not as expensive as New York.
I can't imagine, going anywhere else. I love California. Obviously, air could be better, but there's not too many places in the United States where I can go to the mountains one day and go to the beach the same day if I really wanted to. And
I love it.
Yeah. And you have Disneyland, you have baseball, you have hockey. I mean, there's no shortage of things to do, especially in Southern California. I imagine you're in the Bay Area, so it's kind of the same ballpark.
Same thing. And then if you're a skier or a snower or a gambler, it's 2.5 hours away to Reno, Tahoe. Yeah. So I love it.
Yeah, Bernie and I talk about this all the time. I can't imagine moving anywhere else. I like
Could you imagine living in North Dakota?
I'm trying to think. Do I have customers in North Dakota? I think I may have one.
Don't want to piss people off.
There's only one pin in that state.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Literally in the middle of nowhere, North Dakota. Whereas me here in New York, I'm like, okay, worst thing I'm worried about is getting bit by a rat, getting rabies, and dying from that.
No.
Or nowadays getting shot, I mean,
well, that's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What other questions you have? Did you get any questions that are like, ooh, no, we can't ask that?
Let me look.
There's a couple here I see. The funny ones.
Yeah, have you had the talk with your kids yet?
Yeah.
The talk.
Vaguely, yes. I imagine, naturally they're in high school. They probably hear more than probably we sure as hell did back in our day.
Yeah, no
and plus, with the, their Discord, Instagram,
they
have more access to probably anything I think we will ever have access to.
Oh yeah.
Let's see what is your least favorite collector?
Ooh.
My least favorite collector?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
As far as who to collect, or like?
I don't know. That's how it was written.
Person. Yeah. My least.
No one who asked a question, an individual person.
Probably myself, because there's some decks that I still wish that I had. There's some decks that I've sold. It's like guitars, Daddy. You sell a guitar, and then like 3 days later, you're like, damn, why the hell did I sell that here? I've done that numerous times. So I think as a collector, I would find myself very wishy-washy and probably stubborn and always, I'm always changing my mind on stuff. So I would probably say myself, because I've unloaded stuff now I want back. I have stuff that I've always wanted to get. I look at myself as a collector. I'm like, man, I don't have this. I don't have that. I do have this. I do have that. Why do I have this? Why the hell do I have that? I would say me.
I regret. I bought a brick of Orbit V7 parallels at the Orbit Jam, and I regret giving away half that brick.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Ouch. Not because of the money value. Well, that too, but like that deck, if you've ever handled it, is wow.
Yeah, I've never opened one, but I've heard the same thing.
I've gone through three. I've gone through three myself, just playing around with it. So, but yeah, damn it, why'd I give away?
I mean, it happens.
Damn it.
It happens. We all have those little, crazy moments in our collecting days.
Oh yeah.
And another question in here, some weirdo asked, how did you get so sexy? I wonder who asked that question.
It's completely delusional, I must say.
I mean,
probably the type of collector I just described. Probably the same type of mindset: wishy-washy, stubborn, delusional.
Yeah.
Oh God. Let me see.
On a separate note, I'm glad to see you guys read all the questions. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we make sure we read everything.
I was expecting a little bit more of the controversial stuff, and I didn't really see too many of them.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll be honest, I always prep myself because I watch a few different podcasts, and I've been on a couple. I'm like, I would love to see really like the hard hitting. What do you really feel about this or that? And don't get me wrong, I've always enjoyed all the podcasts I've been on. This one's been an absolute pleasure, but I'm always waiting for ask it, and it's like, didn't ask it.
I mean, we could ask those questions, Dan.
Go for it, Chris.
I mean,
if you got something, go for it.
Okay, I might as well. Okay, we talked about it. Dan and I talked about it on our last episode. And we've heard a little bit about your thoughts and feelings about what happened, for example, with OPC and their Gilded program.
Yep.
How do you really feel? What do you think about what they did? And then on top of that, what are your thoughts on how did they try to rectify the situation afterwards?
Yeah, how deep that hole they dug.
So I'll start with the latter part of that question first. I think anytime any designer, and I don't think they had any sort of malicious intent or malintent or whatever. I just think it was presented in a way that I don't want to say that they completely didn't understand or didn't think through or whatnot. But either way, I think any time in this community, especially with the way the market is right now, you're talking about rampant inflation. A gallon of gas is still like $5.55 in Southern California. I was just in Arizona, and they were telling me, my God, the gas is ridiculous right now. So it's not just a California, it's a nationwide problem with inflation. Stuff in general is just way more expensive. That being said, I think especially now, where if you give the perception that your support equals the most monetary spend, I think you're going to set yourself up for a little bit of backlash, and that's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. I know Fontaine's done something similar, where if you buy a brick of these, you get one of these, right?
Mm-hmm.
So OPC has it where you get a brick, you get a chance to buy one of these, and everyone else you get shut out. I don't know how I've ever felt about the brick program. Well, let me rephrase that. I have two different mindsets on the brick program, whatever you want to call it. So as a collector, it's difficult because you got to buy 12 of these. 11 of them you probably don't want. And I was saying that immediately as soon as these started going on sale, I started getting offers from people asking me if I wanted to buy 11 of them. Okay, and it wasn't just one or two. We're talking there's a lot of people because they just want one of the regular ones and they want one of the hollows. They don't necessarily need the 11 other ones. I didn't need any more extra SpongeBobs. I think you also saw that with the FTP decks. People were buying the bricks for the red one, and then they were unloading all their FTPs at a loss. And I think most collectors realize I'm not necessarily in this for a loss. Now, I think the unpopular opinion that I put out, but I think is completely honest, it's not the collector mindset that it benefits, it's the retailer that it benefits. So and again, total transparency, I ended up buying 14 of these bricks, and all of them I sold via pre-sale, all of them. So as a retailer, you're in a position to do that because then you get all of these that you're going to sell later on down the road. I sold all these at a loss because I knew I was going to make it up on the back end with the hollows. The average collector is not going to do that. Bottom line, they're just not.
Yeah,
right.
They're not.
So
going back to the OPC thing, I think the reason why people, and this is just my opinion, I could be wrong, but I think the reason why people, really had an outcry about OPC, it was kind of just out of character for them, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
No, I guess it is out of
I
character.
think, yeah.
Do you think honestly, being a businessman as well, do you think it's the fact that they figured, hey, our OPC drops aren't selling out in like 2 hours like they used to last year, for example, and now it's taking them days, or even like right now they just sold out of the Pharaohs and it took them a week to sell out of the Pharaohs. Like, do you think that they're like, hey, we have to figure out a way to sell these out because we need to recoup the money and, you know, keep the hype brand going? So do you think that that's why they created this gilded program, buy a brick, get an option to buy a gilded, because they're not making their money back fast enough?
I think they dug themselves a little hole from the very beginning by having their deck so cheap to begin with. I mean, OPC has a very strong backing, a very strong following, obviously because of the outcry that came about when they initiated the Gilded program. I think there's a big difference in selling one deck for $9 compared to $11. Do I think they could have sold those very decks back then for $11 as opposed to $9?
Yes.
Absolutely. So that's $2 times 3,000 decks. That's a little bit more margin. And 11, and let's be realistic here, 11 is still a very, very low price point for a brand such as OPC. But I think because they have $9, $9, okay, now they realize maybe we can squeeze a little money out of that turnip. Maybe here, I'll get to the speed in which stuff sells, because I have an interesting take on that. I've talked to Brenda and a few other people, so we'll get back to that. But I think, they realize it's a way to put themselves in a better financial position. But again, I think anytime you equate, and it kind of just the original reading of the first post, we want to reward our strongest supporters. Strongest support equals financial backing. Right now, most of my demographic, let's be realistic, ranges between 15 and 19. Not the strongest financial situation.
Yeah.
I think that being said, I think if it was like, even if just a random draw, hey, if we're going to sell these bricks and we're going to have 100, 200, 300, 500 gilded decks or whatever, then at least the playing field is level. You don't want it to just cater to the ones who happen to throw the most money at the items.
Right.
And that's just how I feel about it. I mean, I've met the OPC team, great people, love them. It's just the outcry I don't think was unwarranted. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and they were my first deck that wasn't Theory 11 or Bicycle. Like, I didn't even know who they were. I saw a Facebook ad for this banana deck. I'm like, sure, I'll get one. So I've been with them from day one. I don't buy bricks. I don't even buy half bricks anymore because I don't need all of those decks sitting around. So when he said that their main supporters are who spend the most money, I'm like, wait, dude, what? What are you talking about? Because I try to make the point that I know like 80 to 90% of their following are kids.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I think it was a little maybe misguided. Again, I don't want to speak too harsh because they are, very much guys. But when the primary demographic, generally speaking, are unemployed, it's tough to, send that message to that type of demographic.
Yeah. And I mean, we even said it on the last podcast, like we were saying, most kids are doing cardistry nowadays are the younger teenage kids who spend their time. They don't have a job. They don't have families. They're not married, don't have kids. So they can just go to school, come home, and they're working on moves, and they're going to use cardistry decks. And of course, we all know OPC is great for cardistry because of the colors. So Dan and I even said it, like, kids don't have disposable income because they're getting, money, whether, I don't know if kids do chores nowadays, because who knows what kids do nowadays.
They set up Discords for their dads.
Now we have to let Max and Ruby know, hey, get paid for it. Sorry.
Right.
Be like, they get to live under my roof. That's that's how they get paid.
We keep the internet flowing.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's just like the younger kids, they don't have that income. And for them to ask, sometimes I know for myself, for example, I came from a very low income family. And back in the day, I could never ask my mom for like $10 because that's a lot of money back then, And even nowadays, $10 is a lot, for myself or in general for anybody, just for a deck of cards, for example, Right. So it's like, ask your parents for almost $100 for decks of cards. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It made no sense.
Yeah, and even if they do manage to get a hold of that brick, which there should be no problem, trying to unload that the remaining 11 decks, that's not necessarily an easy task. We buy like tons of boxes. We have a scale. We have the ways and the means. I would guarantee not everyone does. I mean, sure, they do it, but to do it on a scale where you're repeating that 10 times, not the best situation. I think.
Right. I would rather miss out on the deck on just a drop.
Yeah.
If I miss a deck on a drop, oh well, I'm okay with it because it's a luck of the draw.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's always been mindset. Everyone's been there. Everyone has missed drops.
Yes.
And I've never really been upset about missing a drop. It's like, wasn't my day. You win some, you lose some. That's life.
Exactly.
Never got upset. Never, went on a tirade or rampage. It's just, I didn't get it. Today is not my day.
Yeah.
I'll have to get one aftermarket. Period. That's end of discussion. So if I can get them, fantastic. If I can't, hey, that's like it's like trying to get radio hit tickets back in the day. Like you either get them or they're gone in 20 seconds, or you don't get them, and then you pay through the nose because you want it. I think that's the same type of mindset that applies. If you can get them at the drop, awesome. If you can't, hey man, if you want to go, you're gonna have to pay.
Yeah, it's just honestly, and like we all said, it's like I think the way they went about it, and the way they already set themselves in the community as being community first, and the way they've always presented themselves, and then to go in this route, it almost felt like a pure slap in the face to the community. Like, hey, you touted yourself as being for the community, and then you did this, and it's just like, okay, now are we seeing your true colors, or was this a little bump in the road? That's. I mean, granted, OPC is a business, and at the end of the day, a business needs, as you know, to make money to sustain itself and to continue to grow. So it's like,
it doesn't. At least not for the first year.
No,
don't use my model. Profitability? What? No. I mean, you're absolutely right. Rather if it's a true colors or just a bump in the road, I would say 99%. It has to be a bump in the road. It has to be. They just hold so much respect. I mean, I've talked about this with Brenda. We've seen certain designers where at the very beginning, and I'm probably treading on another controversial topic here, or something that's going to open a can of worms down the road, but there's been, I think if you look at the community and the different designers that kind of play and made their name, there's some that, it was never about, it was about the cards. And then gradually over time, it went from about the cards. Hey, we're doing pretty darn well. And man, we're making some good money. And that's like, clearly it's about the money. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's a list of people where I don't feel it's ever been that way. I mean, Chris Brown comes immediately to mind. Why? He's not dropping a deck every other couple months. When he's printing deck, it's at a great price point, and there's plenty for everybody. Never really had the brick paywall that people call. Even the ASOPs, if you really wanted one, you were able to get your hands on one pretty cheaply. The parallels were able to have pretty cheaply.
ASOPs might have come dinged, but you got one.
But you know what? I mean, you know what? If you contacted Chris, he would have fixed it for you.
Yes.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah. That's true. And even I think that even the one that came closest to be the most difficult, the Cardistry Con one, I think he even still had a drop separate later for the Cardistry Con decks, and even the ones like without the seal. But I don't think, he's when it comes to mind as far as never really crossed the line to, he's always stayed in it's always been about the cards.
Yeah.
It's always been about the cards. Luke Wade is another one that comes to mind. It's always been about the cards. Home 17, I think, is about the cards. Now, granted, I know some of the decks can be a little pricey down the road, and I know the other Patreon, but again, when you're doing something like this is not a cash grab at all.
No.
I mean, it's a great deck, and $10. So, and then there are some, and I'm not going to name names, I'll leave that for speculation, where it's gradually went from cards to, let's see how much milk we can get out of this cow.
Yeah, unfortunately. And then also, that leads also to like the whole, we were talking about this last week, like the whole, people end up becoming like the negativity in the community. Like all of a sudden it becomes like the egos and they go to their head, their inflated head. It's like, really. This is just for the end of the day, like for like what you said, the way you really started SoCal Playing Cards was you were a collector and you wanted to do a better job shipping decks, so you created the store. And this is just a hobby for almost everybody in this community. It's all a hobby. We all have our own day jobs. We all, either school or day jobs, and this is what we collect. But then there's others in this community that take it a little bit too seriously, in my opinion. And next thing you know, it's like this negativity comes into involved, and then there's these people that actually berate and just talk so negatively about other people in this community, and for no reason. It's just 52 pieces of paper, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you look at any community at all. We can talk about whether it's sports or work or musicianship. There's going to be people who are relatively down to earth and who are there just for the good of the community, and then there's some that if you look at they talked about things like the '97 Yankees. They all hated each other.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be the element of some sort of toxicity, but they managed to come together for the good of that team. So I think any community or any group, you're going to have that element where there's going to be someone who just, I don't want to say a bad seed, but for lack of a better term, someone who's just negative overall. And I've dealt with that, occasionally from time to time. That's fine. I know it comes with the territory, and people send me messages like, "You think you're a big shot?" No, I have a day job, and if I wanted to pull the plug on the store, it'd be no regrets. I think we've accomplished everything that we wanted to do. We're still accomplishing everything we wanted to do as far as the store is concerned, which is to have a nice selection of cards at a very affordable price point. All the new stuff that comes out, generally like Murphy's Magic, we never mark anything up. We only mark it down if we can. Period. Look at the anyones. I sell all the anyones that I get from Drop cheaper than, because anyone charges $10 a pop. So you're paying for one deck of cards $28 from anyone. Even if I sell it at $20, you're still only paying $25.25. Cheaper than anyone for a single deck. And that's just what we want to do. And people tell me that you're crazy and you can charge twice as much. Yeah, of course we charge twice as much. But again, I think of my primary demographic. It's 15 to 19 who are generally unemployed. So we have to do what we can to make sure that we're doing everything cheaply. I go. That's their students, but okay, let me rephrase that. They don't have a reliable stream of income. Let's put it that way.
They're interns.
Excuse me, they're not employed. They're students. They got other things to worry about.
Go mow a lawn. No.
What's a lawn?
Like a teacher in my room. God.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what is a lawn? I live in New York. Yeah.
I totally forgot where we're at with that one. It's funny. I wanted to come back on something you said. You mentioned about how the period of time that it took for OPC to sell out of the Pharaohs.
Yeah.
I had just my take on that. I know some people put a tremendous amount of stock in how quickly something sells out or doesn't sell out, and I've always thought that was a really fascinating. It was really fascinating and interesting because, like for example, Fontaine's sell out in 4 hours. So, like, they didn't sell out in 10 minutes. What's wrong? The brand is going completely downhill. The bottom line is it's sold out. So,
yeah.
I mean, my deck, for all intents and purposes, sold out. It took 2 years, but it sold out, and I'll take it. I just never was a fan of gauging how fast something sells out, whether it be 4 minutes, 40 minutes, or 4 hours, because at the end of the day, they put out a deck at a big print run and they sold them all. They're all gone. I mean, it's interesting to gauge when something sells out, 5 minutes. But I never understood where people want to equate like a 5-hour time frame with almost like failure. It's the way it almost reads sometimes.
I think it's more of like, especially nowadays, especially for the younger generation, it's more of the quick satisfaction, gratification. Like they want it quick. They want to know, okay, it's sold fast. Oh, it must be great. Got to get it. And that's why. And then all of a sudden now it's like, hey, sold out a week later. Most kids nowadays are like, wait, it's sold out. It's losing hype brand. Let's change hype brands. It's like you said, it sells out. It sells out. But
yeah, I mean, let's put it this way: the first hollow gilded deck, it's still available, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's tons of them. Does that mean that deck's a failure? Not at all. It's awesome. Probably made too many, but I wouldn't equate that with being, not desirable or a substandard deck.
Right.
I just think sellout terms is always funny.
Yeah, I took his I think he made like 5,000 of those hollow gilded decks. I took it like he wanted to be a Chris Brown approach, where I'm gonna make sure everybody can get it, and I printed so many, so I can only charge 30. So I took it as he wanted to make sure everybody got his decks.
Yeah.
See, but again, nobody ever says that about Chris Brown.
No, they don't.
Like never.
I think it's because that's not his mind. It's never been his mindset. He said, like Orbit is a pillar in the community for his cardistry decks. Everybody can get them from the 10-year-old down the street all the way up to however old you want to be. Like he wants people to have his decks, and that's I think always why we don't really judge him on that. Because I think he's always set that.
Yeah,
I'm not a hype brand. I am Orbit. That's who I am.
Yeah,
I'm Orbit.
Especially the recent. I mean, if you go into the V1s, you're paying like what? How much is it going now with the V1s for Orbits? Are like what, $400 a pop now?
Just about, yeah. I think we had the whole set minus just a couple of them. It was 1 through 8, and then the 2 parallels, and all of them for 1,000.
I looked at mine up on my shelf going, damn, that's tempting, but not really. But maybe.
Someone once, we got one message, and again, everyone for the most part has been really, really positive about the store. Someone did, though, ask, the auctions, how, is that sort of a cash grab with everything? Here's the funny thing about the auctions, and Mrs. Cortez, who's putting clothes away in my closet behind me. The auctions are a funny thing because most people think that it's all my stuff. It's not. 90% of everything on the auctions is not mine. So that's why we auction it off, because that's what my partners want to do. Now, granted, we have sad stuff for regular consignment, but the auctions, I just don't have a lot of stuff to auction. It's more other people sending me their stuff. Hey, this is why we're going to auction it. Because people are like, why don't you just sell it? That's messed up. Why don't you just sell it? Whoever gets it gets it. I'm like, that's not what my partners want to do.
And I love the fact that you consignment your auctions, because it gives people a different platform, and all your customers get eyes on it, on something that maybe they're looking for that they can get without the eBay prices.
We love hearing that. We love hearing that. Man, you don't know how long I've been looking for this deck, and we've had some just stupid, crazy decks for the auctions. I know later we're going to have an OG Jerry on the auction block, and it's not the first one we've had. We've actually had like 3 or 4 of them. We've auctioned off a gold carrot. We've auctioned off that Crown Edition number 17, and we've auctioned off some just ridiculous stuff. We've auctioned off the Fontaine poker set. Man, if you look at all of the great decks that have been released through, card, I don't want to say like all card collecting time, but we've had a pretty damn good selection of stuff available on the auction block.
You have. I mean, I've actually been very lucky. I won 2 of your auctions. The one that I'm actually very proud of getting is actually the original Blue Seal Ohio bicycle decks, the red and blue. Those to me, those were the most special, because those were the decks I used with my grandfather, who I always say is my father. We used to play cards, and those were the cards that we always used. So for me, it's more nostalgic, and that's those are the things that I was like, oh my god, I had to get it. So
that's cool.
Yeah, that was just like now I have it. It's literally on my shelf over there, standing there with next to my grandfather's picture and some other little memorabilia of my grandfather right on my shelf right here. Because those are
cool.
It's my memories. It's my dad, I like to say. So that's why I cherish that.
That's really cool, and it's stuff like that comes back to us where we're like, that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, and you never think like, okay, a deck of playing cards brings back all these memories for me. But I remember literally coming home from school, going to my grandfather's house, who lived in the same building as my mom and I would just go to his apartment, and all we did after I finished my homework, granted, he never knew English, but he made sure I got my homework done, and we would play cards until my mom came home. And we would just sit there, play cards, play bridge, or play canasta or something, whatever it was called, and just nonstop.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, and just like cards bring so many memories back. It's just
Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. As far as brands selling out, I think it kind of translates to the Kickstarter thing too, where I funded in 5 minutes. Like they have to like advertise that, and it drives me nuts. Like I funded the last 2 hours of my first project. I'm more proud of that than if I funded in first 5 minutes, because I needed $2,000, and I got $2,000 in 2 hours in the final 2 hours of that project. Like that to me was just like, because the community kind of came together. Brad
I remember
Fulton,
that.
Yeah, and like I'm like, Psh, you funded in 5 minutes. I funded with 5 minutes left to go.
That was a push. I remember that was a big deal, because I'm sure there were quite a few people who looked at the clock and then looked at the dollar amount that's remaining, like, doesn't look good. And then it's one of those last ditch efforts. And I remember the messages that were going out from a multitude of individuals. And so that is something to look at. It's something to be proud of, because that was a close one.
Yeah, it was.
But then you're absolutely right, where I've seen some where they put up this paltry goal and then they're 25 times past that amount in 34 minutes. I mean, of course you funded. I think everybody on the Sunday was going to fund in like 5 minutes. So I'm not going to say it's not an accomplishment, but
I mean, we all knew Lord of the Rings was going to fund within the first 5 minutes, no matter what.
Yeah, that was a no-brainer.
That was no-brainer. I mean,
there's way too much of a following there, and there's some that are like not Stockholm 17, not Low Trek, maybe just
Third Way.
17.
Third Way.
I always but same thing. I mean, again, it's not that it's not an accomplishment. It's just
Like,
dude, it's a slam dunk, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even a Lord of the Rings fan, and I backed for a couple decks of Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
You know
decks.
what? Same here. Never read them, never saw them, but
neither.
But I mean, his deck and the uncut sheet and the gilded deck package was what $65. I'm like, how could you not?
Yeah.
I don't know. So
yeah, I mean, I'm a Third Way fan, so I have a lot of Third Way decks. But for me, I'm like, okay, you're gonna fund. So what I've been seeing, especially these bigger names in the community, they'll do a Kickstarter, but instead of doing a 30-day Kickstarter, they're doing like 15-day Kickstarter, because they know they're gonna fund within the first hour. So why wait 30 days to get the money?
Yeah.
Get it in 2 weeks. Whereas
Jetstarter, I think Jetstarter does. I think they only run 10-day campaigns, don't they?
Jetsetter?
Or Jetsetter?
No, I think he did a 15-day.
Is it 15?
Yeah,
somebody does a 10. I'm trying to remember what it is now.
No, I think it was a 15-day, because I backed it. So I'm like, and I just funded today or yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah, so which is kind of funny, because I'm like, he was like, oh yeah, let's put out 2 more decks. I'm like, Dan and I were like, wait, he just fulfilled one, and we're like, we're getting another one. We're like, really? Like, okay. Because I love Paul. I think Paul's an amazing sweetheart. I think he's an amazing person, great guy in the community. But I just was like, back to back, I was just like, I wasn't ready for this. And I mean, his last year when he did the orange edition, the orange and silver, I backed for I did like a $200 back, because I was probably
that campaign took forever.
Ever.
I know he had a lot of problems, but man, and I know that's probably why he jumped on the train to do the next one so quickly, because that last one was just like, oh my god.
The orange and silver, mine don't even have a layer of dust on them yet, so it was pretty quick for them to have another campaign.
Yeah, I'm just like, holy shit, another one already? So I'm just like, okay, fine, sure, but I'm not going to spend that much money anymore. I'm going to scale back a little bit. Because nowadays there's so many, I can speak for myself, maybe probably Dan as well. There are so many smaller friends of ours that are putting out decks or creating a deck that we would love to support them if we can, if we like the deck, of course. Of course, we're not going to spend money if we don't like the deck, but if we like the deck and they're friends of ours, of course we want to help out.
Naturally.
So that's what I'm trying to do personally. And my biggest, I would say, not gripe, but more like, why do they do this? Why are these bigger companies going onto Kickstarter? Jackson with the Lord of the Rings, I get it because he's working with the estate. 100% get.
Yeah,
Probably wants more advertisement, to reach more of the Lord of the Ring fans.
Exactly.
Not just us
exactly.
only playing card guys.
Exactly. But then you have people like, for example, like Riffle Shuffle or, Knock. Why are they going on Kickstarter? And because they can self-fulfill. Like, for example, Orbit, Chris Brown, he self-funds. He knows he's going to sell out. He'll self-fund, does the web press, does like 10,000 decks? Bless him.
25,000, I think, right?
All right, excuse me.
They all feel great. They feel great all the time.
Yeah. But it's like, why should a bigger company go on Kickstarter? Like if you know you're going to fund and you have the money, why? I don't know why. I just don't get it.
I can see why people do Kickstarter. Again, Kickstarter scares me. One, because if it fails, I can't show my face around this town again. But just the cut that they take out of it, I think that money can be better served elsewhere. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people rely on Kickstarter because it is a huge gamble. Again, we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
But for me, I just don't know if I can go that route. I'd rather just self-fund it and hope for the best. So probably going to look at that again, maybe depending on, if we ever get to a final design. Because, again, if it's something where I'm like, dude, no-brainer, then we'll put it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, honestly, for you, if you did your SoCal V2 on Kickstarter, I think the community will back you 100%. And I think, knock on wood, it would fund because it's more of the fact that people respect you and like who you are, so they want to help you.
Granted, but they could like me a lot. If the deck looks like crap, they're not going to buy it.
Yeah, and if you can avoid those 15% fees, then you should go ahead and avoid those fees.
Something I'm about to learn as we're putting out our Kickstarter very soon, in like a week. Yeah, actually next Sunday. Holy shit! Just realized.
And the thing that worries me about Kickstarter, like I think it goes with the what the world's going through right now, is there's a lot of campaigns that are not funding. Of course, you get your big guys that are, but like a lot of people are kind of either the money thing or a couple campaigns haven't fulfilled, and it's been over a year, and it's kind of scaring some people.
That's something that I didn't think about, but there's a couple that I know where nothing showed up, and that kind of sucks. And it wasn't these were small amounts that we put down either. Again, sometimes when you back a Kickstarter, they're sometimes at better rates than wholesale. So you plop down a nice chunk of change looking for a nice return, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah. That's a shame.
It is a big shame. I mean, but like I said, I think Kickstarter is a great idea for smaller creators. So that way they can, put their artwork out there, get their names out there, at least do something, like Dan. I mean, as he's, trying to look all innocent and cute there.
Well, Danny, how did it feel? Because I know the first one you talked about that is, kind of a last-minute ditch effort, but the second one, that one funded pretty quickly, if I recall correctly.
Within 2 weeks, something like that, and I'll tell you, lessons learned on that campaign. I mean, COVID and the supply issues hit me hard. I took a loss in the end.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
Yeah, but I mean, the website saved me. So, but I mean, definitely lessons learned. I'll tell you that.
I think there's a lot of that. Anytime you talk about business or any sort of retail environment or anytime you have some sort of project, there's a ton of lessons learned. If I could take what I know now and start it from day one, oh my God, it would be a much different feel as far as the store is concerned. But I think what's good for us is right now, again, there was a time where I was ready to pull the plug, but right now I feel like I'm hungry again. And I'm in a mode where we can grow even further and take on more fulfillment.
That's what I was about to ask. Do you think the fulfillment aspect has helped you gain that like hunger and gain that like joy of having the store again? Like, do you think fulfillment has helped you?
Yeah, absolutely. When we got one project, and it was about 190 backers, and we knocked it out in literally 2 days.
Wow.
And, Brenda and my daughter, knocked out the 1s, 2s, and 3s, and I took care of everything, 4 more. It was done like 2 days flat. I mean, the fact that, and most of your Kickstarters kind of are in that 100, 125, 200, 225, 250 at the most. So the fact that we knocked out a respectable sized Kickstarter in just a couple of days, that was a really, really good feeling. Like, because we were a little nervous, and we've never really done fulfillment before, but someone reached out to us kind of as an emergency situation, so we agreed to take it, and it ended up being a very, very good experience, not only for us, but for our fulfillment partner who reached out to us, because even he was a little nervous about the way things shook down. So the fact that we got everything out within 3 days, essentially without a hitch, I mean, it was a huge boost of confidence for us. Then we had Ink Beast, which that one was an enormous project.
Yeah.
Not going to say we knocked it out that fast. Again, the 1, 2s, and 3s, knocked those out quick. Brenda, Max, Ruby, boom. They
God, it took forever to get these, man.
What we learned about Ink Beast, and I can share this because I know Jamie and I spoke all the time.
Oh, we all love
cases.
Jamie.
The cases, anything that had the case was very difficult and cumbersome just to pack together because the case was the T. So it wasn't like a carrot case that was flat. I mean, this thing was bulky. So from a packing standpoint, and then people were adding I think we had one order where it was 3 tea cases and 3.5 bricks. To have all the bricks, I'm like, I don't even have a box to pack this thing. How the hell am I going to do that? So even anything with one of the cases is a little tricky. I don't want to say we were slow. It's just by nature time consuming trying to pack stuff. With the cases, because then we want the decks in the case, and we got to repack it back up, and then try to figure out how we're gonna use enough bubble wrap to get everything all situated in there, and then if you want 3 bricks on top of that, how are we gonna position all that together? So it wasn't that we were intentionally slow. It was 700 backers anyway. I mean, that was an enormous Kickstarter by I think anybody's stretch imagination, but. The tea cases were a little bit of an experience just because it was a little tricky to get stuff packed in there when half of the case is sticking straight up from the rest of it.
Well, I even then it was still, if you compare yourself to Art of Play or Gamblers, or Murphy's even, it was still a very quick turnaround.
Yeah.
To what those guys can probably do.
It made us feel good hearing that, but internally I was like, okay, now looking back, I'm like, if we would have done it, this, and this. You're always looking to fine-tune it. I mean, you never want to sit back and say, okay, that was perfect, fine, move on. No. You want to, anytime we complete something, we want to look back and say, okay, here's what we did right. Here's what I liked. Here's what we probably could have done differently. How can we do it differently next time? Now, I doubt we're going to have to deal with tea cases ever again.
Yeah, right.
But if the situation presents itself, how are we going to do that? So it's a little bit easier to pack compared to how we did it beforehand. Because, the first couple of ones, it was kind of like trial and error. I think we packed the first order of the tea case, 3 or 4 times over trying to figure out, how we're going to use the least amount of bubble wrap, but still have it protective. Because again, the bubble wrap, if you're putting 12 sheets of wrap, and that's $1.20 just in bubble wrap, and those are all the little things you got to look at. It's not just how much does it cost to ship. Each sheet of wrap is 10 cents, and then the box is 78 cents or $1.10, depending on how big the box is. Mm-hmm. And then all those little things add up. And that's what we try to do. I've talked to some people when they ask about our fulfillment. It's like we're not going to be the cheapest because I don't want to use. I like using the stuff that we use.
Yeah.
And those indestructible boxes, they're awesome.
Yeah, they are.
They're a little more expensive. So. Just by design, the way we pack, we're not going to be the cheapest, but we're not going to be the most expensive. And I think part of the appeal is, we don't have any differentiation between how we pack fulfillment stuff compared to how we pack our normal stuff anyway. There's no difference other than the DS1 being missing. But I do leave that as an option that I have let people know, hey, it's an option if you really, really want it. But, naturally the DS1s, they're not free.
yeah, exactly.
No,
but I mean, when when I reached out to inquire about your services, I know, I didn't know your pricing yet, but I know I'm reaching out to you because I like the way you guys handle your packaging and everything like that. And yeah, you're not the cheapest, but you're not the most expensive. But I know what I'm getting. You know, with gamblers, my stuff can get like freshman year got there and they sat on it for a month before they even began to ship stuff. Like that was a little irritating. Now, you know, if it takes you a couple weeks, that's fine because I know, one, you'll respond to my messages. Two, I know the quality I'm getting from you, you know, and I think that goes a long way because you already have that history with your store.
Funny thing about fulfillment, though, is I always tell people, or I try to tell people, there's always an incentive for us to try to get it out as quickly as possible for you. Yeah. Why? Because we don't have a warehouse. When we have boxes, it's literally behind our couch. So it's we have to get it out of our house. I mean,
get this crap out of here.
we can't have it sit there for a month because it's literally by a treadmill in our back room, by our couch. So what are those boxes back there? Like, yeah, we gotta get this stuff out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's our incentive to try to get it out, is because, you know, we don't have a warehouse. So literally once it's in, you know, Brendan and the kids know that it's time to work. We gotta work so we can get these products out, because that's what you reach out to us for, not to have it sit for a month and like, we'll get to it when we get to it. No, it doesn't work that way.
No, I mean, it makes sense. And I think, I think it's a great thing that you're doing. But lost train of thought. Okay. Do you think moving forward, fulfillment might become a bigger portion of your business versus card selling?
We're going to be pretty picky. We know that we're going to be in there's a certain sweet spot I think that we kind of fit in. If there's a Kickstarter from like 100 to maybe 300, that's probably the sweet spot, as long as it doesn't have like a lot of the big stuff, like a tremendous amount of cases. Now, Ink Beast was fine. We knew what we were signing up for. That's fine. Not that I wouldn't do it again. It's just I think we're tailor-made for, if it's just decks, boom, I think that's a huge sweet spot. And it doesn't matter what the number is. If it's just decks, I can probably pack a brick faster than I could pack 3 decks. And I already know in my head, it's, you take a brick, 3 sheets of the big bubble wrap, take 1 sheet, cut it in half, fold it goes in both ends, 6x4x3, tape it, done. It's that, for me, I'm like, it's that simple. So a brick of cards, and I pack 9, 10, or a brick. And if you really want to, you could probably do 15 if you put 3 on top, and it'll still be just as protected. So if it's just decks, it's
easy peasy.
It's easy. It's easy.
Down to a science.
It's funny because on Pirate Ship it has all of the packages listed out. Like I don't have to type anything. It's like, oh, it's 9 decks, 12 decks, 4 decks. And that's, we try to. I joke, we work very hard and not trying to work hard. You know, so usually we try to streamline and have everything automated as much as possible, because that just gives more time and flexibility to do other things.
Yeah. So with like Ink Beast, not only did you have the T cases, you had 3 separate decks. You had the coin, the half brick boxes. That you had a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
I would assume. Yeah. So
we set it up. It was kind of neat how we set it up. I think I posted a picture once, but we had it staged. And it's funny because we have a sectional couch. And the sectional couch is perfect. We had coins here, stickers here, Anatomica, Alterna, and then we had the minis, the dark editions. Then we had Collector Gilded, Gold Gilded, and I think that's all of them. Yeah, that's all of them. There were 6 of them. Yeah. So we staged it, and then we did even trial runs to make sure that we were set up correctly, and that's when our entire kitchen basically became a fulfillment center. And I think it was about a week and a half when it was all done. But yeah, the first ones, the 1 through 3s, I think Brendan knocked that out, I think by herself. I think it was 300 boxes she did in like 2 days. I mean, she was just a machine when it comes to that. She's fast. She's really, really good. But everything that was beyond that, and then with the T case, not quite the speed that it has with the 1 through 3s.
Right.
It's definitely not a complaint. It's just kind of just the nature of trying to pack something that's a little awkward.
Yeah, I mean, I know I got my Ink Beast set really quickly.
Yeah, I was completely satisfied with the speed.
Yeah.
Well, that works.
But us backers, we know you have 1,000 backers to send stuff to. We know it's going to take you a little bit because it's a lot.
Well, it was funny because I think the first time he mentioned it, we're like, we're all on board, and we're looking at maybe. I could be wrong, but he's like 175, 200 backers, maybe 300 at the most, and then we're tracking it, we're watching it, and the bar keeps getting larger, bigger, and people are looking at, wow, he's look at the dollar amount. I'm looking like, how many backers is he at now?
Yeah.
Oh my god. How many is that USA and Canada? It's like 667. I'm like, okay, this is a. And then when they showed up, it was funny when the boxes actually showed up. I think it took me like 40 minutes just to get all the boxes from the garage, into the house where we wanted to stage them. It was a lot of boxes.
Jeez.
It was fun though. It was
a great service. I love the deck. Jamie did a great job. Jamie and his art.
It's fantastic.
It's a beautiful deck of cards. Dan has that coin, which I'm very jealous about.
That coin is so
awesome.
Dope. Yeah.
Kind of funny thing about the coin too is when we first got the coin, we weighed it, and I'm like, this thing's heavy, which is tricky when you're dealing with one deck or two deck because it weighed almost as much as a deck. So the problem that we had with the coin was that if you had two decks in the coin, it would actually kick it up into the next weight tier.
Oof.
Yeah.
And so we once I got the coin, I was like, we need to adjust how we're going to do this. But all in all, I think it's good to have run a big project like that, because then there's no doubt in my mind we can do it again. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and I think more and more. I think, like you said, you'll find that sweet spot. You'll find the people that you want, and you'll be selective and be picky about who you want to work with. And people will want to come back to you when they do Kickstarter because the service that you provide, which is a good thing.
Yeah, people read the Kickstarter.
Yep.
Yeah,
we have a couple people already.
Go ahead, Henry.
The cool thing is we actually had a couple people that we did fulfillment for were already like, hey, we want to do this one. Are you in? I'm like, absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can put Henry as your fulfillment, and people aren't gonna go, I don't know now,
Like gamblers? What?
Yeah. Well, that's why I did my last one myself, and I'll tell you, I'll never. I enjoyed it, but I'm not doing that ever again. That was too much.
No, but you also had to do all the soloing.
I also had to hand cello everything too. So that is a good point.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, hand cello all the decks, then wrap everything, then ship everything by hand. It's like, okay.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then the gilding. Let's not even start with the gilding.
Yeah.
That took forever.
Yeah, it did. Not too bad.
No,
the gilder I used got my decks back in like 4 weeks, which was insanely fast. But yeah, I'll never fulfill again. No thanks.
And hopefully junior year will get fulfilled by this guy down here.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see. We'll see what happens with the project when we get there.
Fingers crossed.
We'll see. Well, on that note, Henry, I think we want to say thank you for joining us on the podcast.
It's been a pleasure, guys. I really do appreciate it.
Honestly, it's been an amazing time talking to you, talking shit about everything. That's just how we do here. Well, Henry, thank you again for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
I appreciate it. I'm going to steal a phrase from this guy. We gone!